very much, Gareth, for coming and sharing this, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Kirsty. Hi, everybody. Firstly, can I just apologise if I go a bit husky on you? I am actually at home. I have a bad chest infection, so I thought I'd be better at home rather than trying to smite everybody else. So anyway, here we go. So the mixed delivery in secondary school settings, this came on us as a big surprise, as we all know, back in March, when we were all at home and suddenly having to provide all these lessons. So that's a wee bit of the background and context. I'm just going to go into that right away now. So we don't have time tonight to go into any of the pedagogy or any of the whys and the wherefores, but can I direct you to this webinar that I took part in way back in June? I've put the URLs up there. It's on the YouTube and it's on the Globe blog site for Education Scotland, and it's a really good one about pedagogy and safeguarding, particularly safeguarding, and it's as much for you as an educator as it is for safeguarding the children. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is that when we're talking about what we're about to do tonight and what we have been doing within the context of Queen Anne High School, the safeguarding issue has to be front and centre in everything that we do. And it's as much to protect ourselves as it is to protect the children. So I'm sure the folks will put that up later on in this. So within our own school settings, the following are important. Whatever school you're at and whatever setting you happen to be in, I think it's really important that you've got a really good idea of your local education authority and your school's policies around this. Don't go belting into this ad hoc, as it were. Have a really good idea and stick to it as closely as you can, obviously. Support and buy-in from your head teacher and your senior leadership team is absolutely key. At the end of the day, you need to know that you've got the support of your head teacher, your senior leadership team, and that they have bought into what it is you are trying to do. Goes without saying, support of the parents, although it's a bit of an odd one, this. If you read the social media, don't. It's just not worth it. But what we did very early doors is we put some communication out to the parent body and tried to explain to them what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And then when we got our first case within Queen Anne, and it was all over the newspapers, so it's not a big secret, we did have a whole class of second years that had to isolate from home. So I happened to teach them as a practical set. So what I did was I approached the school, approached the head teacher and asked if they could put an email out, a further one, to explain what it was I was hoping to do. And I gave them a few tips and hints as to how they could support their children whilst at home, isolating and getting. So what we did, and Sarah, I think Sarah teaches this class as well from memory. So what, between the two of us, we've done at least in supporting this particular class is in our time, on the timetable, when we had that class coming to a room, we would then do a live stream, and this is what this particular thing is all about. And lastly, on this little bullet point here, the understanding of the platform by the pupils prior to a mixed delivery is absolutely key and important. It might sound trite and you might think, oh, but they know how to do this. There's actually quite a lot of navigation, especially for junior school, to try and achieve from home, and that could be quite daunting. So it's well worth spending even a period having a chat to your class within the next week, because it may happen to you. You may find that a whole class is not going to be in school for a number of days, or in our case it's 2 weeks, although I do believe they're back today. But have a chat with your pupils and make sure they understand what your expectations are as well as how to get through it all. So some practicalities, and sure you know the platform, it goes without saying. Well, I'm talking to Kirsty today, we discovered that Scottish Government may have an issue, but we're all experiencing it. When you go on and you use Teams, there's always one person in that meeting who sounds like Mickey Mouse. Now, that sounds a bit daft, but yesterday when I did a live broadcast from my sick bed, so to speak, to my higher class, I sounded like Mickey Mouse. And I knew what to do. That was to come out and come back into the meeting again, and it sorted itself. So it's little things like that. If you know the platform you're working with, you'll know the trip points. Another good idea is to have all your resources to hand. Close emails. Don't have anything on your screen that you can inadvertently show the pupils when you're doing a live stream. Professional suicide almost. So make sure that the only thing that you have got on your screen, like I have right now, is just the stuff that you need, and it's related to the presentation that you're giving. Run through the lesson before going live. It's always a good idea. It's not the same as teaching. It just absolutely isn't. Even what I'm doing just now still feels alien to me. And to all intent and purpose, we've been doing this now for 6 months. We should be, some of us should be experts at this by now. But it's still odd when I'm looking at my screen and I don't see anybody else. So it's always well worth having a wee practice. If possible, and this came out in the webinar back in June time, have a colleague monitor the session. Now, this colleague's just there to give you a bit of support. They could be in another room. So yesterday, although I was here, I had a colleague monitor that from their classroom, and they were able to look at the chat function and make sure there was nothing inappropriate going on within the chat, because you can't do a presentation like I'm doing right now and pay attention to the chat function. It's just really not possible. So try and have a colleague, and I know there's issues around who's available at the time, but if you can have someone, even if they're teaching a completely different class, just keeping an eye, then you're safeguarding yourself apart from anything else. So a wee bit of context then. This is my classroom. This is how I view it, my classroom. There's my smart board, which doesn't work, and I'm waiting for a replacement. So that will colour some of the stuff I'm going to tell you in a minute or two. And so I've got this set up. You might be able to see, apart from the frog, you might be able to see a tiny little camera down there. Now that camera is a little Microsoft camera. I'm not advertising for Microsoft. I merely state that because it only costs something around 39 quid. Now, we were looking at cameras that were going to cost 150, and that's not a sustainable price for a school. But our rector has gone out and bought us quite a few of these little cameras, because at the end of the day, 39 quid, you get what you pay for, but by the same token, it does the job, and it's a really good little buy, that one. So I have that camera up. When I'm in school, I don't necessarily show the kids my image. It's not necessary. But I do have the camera there just in case we need to use it. And if I turn to my left, this is my class, all the seniors socially distancing. I've got my nice tape out there, and I've got my zone of protection, so no kid can come into that. And for this particular lesson, I was using 2 devices. I was using the camera, I was sharing my screen, but I was also using the iPad, and the iPad was being used as a second camera. So if I did go up to the board to explain anything to the rest of the class, because at the end of the day, I did have a class there, the child in this particular case, it was just the one child, could actually see what I was doing. It's hard to see, but that is me down the bottom there. I've got plenty of tea, so don't worry. So that's my setup. It's important to say that when you're in school and there's a pupil coming into the class from outside, if you will, through the digital media, you've still got a class to teach. It's not like everybody's at home. So this is where the dynamic is a bit tricky, and this is why I had the setup that I did. In terms of starting any lesson, as Kirsty and the guys and girls at Scottish Government do, they've got this screen, and here is one that I have prepared for my engineering science higher class. If I'm doing any streaming, any live at all, then this is the first thing that they see just while people are coming in and getting set up. And I've since put up the new headings, because the last one was the older ones from back in June time. But it's encouraging the pupils to turn their mic off, turn their camera off, and get the conversation chat function active as well. So I've got that ticking away in the background where folks are coming into the class, and hopefully the pupils at home are getting logged on. And then, just like Kirsty did, we're good to go. So in terms of my delivery, it's been 5 years now since I started to put everything on Class OneNote, and 2 years since I migrated that to Teams. So this is one of my teams here. As you can see, it's my higher engineering class, and we've got the 3 channels. There's a general channel for just the general things that I might want to tell them, or if I put up an assignment, it actually comes up in the general channel. A forum channel, it's the only one open for the pupils, so general chit chat, Q&As are done on the forum channel, and the lesson channel is specifically for me to put up. Nothing else goes up in here apart from what we're doing this week and any changes that I might want to make. So you can see there going back to the 31st of August, and in fact this particular channel goes right back into May. And every week, more often than not on a Sunday night or a Sunday afternoon, if I'm really bored, I'll put up what we're going to do in this particular week. And there is the week for the 7th of September. That's this week, and we're doing drive systems. At higher, we're going to review the National 5 course on one of the days, and then through the next few days, a little bullet point list of what I'm hoping to achieve from Wednesday as it was on. And then at the bottom there, because I was off, I've slightly revised that and I've put that up as well. So the class note is where I keep all my learning and teaching materials, and that's got through the team, which is created when you create the team, so there's nothing else for you to do. I keep a Gantt chart on the go, and I adjust. That's what the engineer, I adjust this every week, so anybody who is isolating at home can come in, they can see where we are, they can see, roughly speaking, what we're hoping to do. And if they tie that back to what I've put in the lesson plan for that week, then the pupil at home has got a really good idea of what it is that we should be doing on any given week. At least it's a weekly thing, this. Within the context of the content library, then, at the very start of the year, I give the pupils every single bit of learning and teaching resource that I have at that moment in time. And all of my drive system stuff, and all of my other stuff. We've got the learning intentions, which is scalped from the SQA documentation and just slightly reworded to make a bit more sense in terms of learning intentions and success criteria. So again, we can refer back to that if we are doing a classroom session with someone coming in, then we've got the notes, they're all there. And this is what the pupils in the class use. When they come in, they get onto Teams, they get onto OneNote. I will have up on the board what it is we're going to do today, and they immediately should be going, but they're pupils after all, should be going to this tab, and if it's dry systems there, we've got our learning intentions, we've got all our pages, and we're good to go. And there should be no difference to the people at home, because they can get hold and they can log in through Glow, through the Teams, into the OneNote, and they've got everything that we've got. I much prefer to use a visualizer if I'm doing the maths part of this course. I've found doing it at the board, it doesn't suit me. It's a personal thing. It just absolutely doesn't suit me. And as of this year, my board's broken, so it's just a big projector. So I've got my visualizer set up on my desk, and if I'm doing any maths, then I can project it up, but every pupil in the class has got a device anyway, that's either their own or the Fife Council one. And they can actually see what I'm doing on their own device. And it's the same with the pupil at home. And this is the key. The pupils in school are using their own devices. They're using school devices, and I'm teaching like this. The pupil at home can see exactly the same thing. And providing I've got the mic switched on, they're going to hear exactly what I'm saying to the pupils and exactly what it is the conversation in the class is all about. So they shouldn't miss out from that point of view. And that's just a live shot of a task that I did yesterday, and for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll notice that's advanced higher engineering science and not higher. So the question would be, how does a pupil show me their work? And here is one pupil's work. I'm not a big fan of the inking that they've used, but God bless them, they're actually doing ink. And this pupil is using this particularly. They're not using paper. They've got their iPad. Their parents have splashed out and they've bought them an iPad that's going to see them through 5th year and right through their university. And they are now inking everything on their iPad, and I can see it. It would be almost real time if the Wi-Fi in school was connecting quick enough. But there's a bit of a lag, but I can see this pupil's work, everything she's doing, I can see it there. She's not got a jotter anymore. She's doing it in the OneNote, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm trying to encourage all my pupils to do this. Here's another example of a pupil. This pupil is doing it in a book, which is absolutely fine. That's what we naturally gravitate towards, putting all our stuff in a book. But what I've asked them to do, and what the vast majority, not every pupil's doing this, but the vast majority of them are, they're actually taking a photograph on their phone and they're posting it up as soon as they get reasonable connectivity. And as you can see, she's put her work up there, and I'm able to give her a wee bit of feedback. I mean, this is, obviously I've chosen the best in the class. It would be foolish not to. This is a fantastic piece of work by this particular pupil. And finally, another method of getting pupils to interact from a distance would be to put something up in the Teams. You can put it as an assignment, and here's an example. It's clearly been done from home. Oh, excuse me. But I can now see that pupil's work. I've given them feedback on the feedback section, and it's absolutely clear what this pupil's all about in terms of their work. So that, very quickly, is a run through of how I am juggling the issue of teaching within a class and having pupils at home. Now, the one thing that the Deputy First Minister said is we shouldn't be giving ourselves any extra work when pupils are at home and we're teaching in school. And I can say hand on heart, I am not giving myself any more work because all my stuff's already there. The kids in the class access all their learning and teaching resources through Teams and OneNote. Therefore, if someone's at home, it's just a case of them joining in and me remembering to switch on the meeting function, and away we go. And that, folks, is that. I'll hand back to you guys, Kirsty.